Alright, kicking off the new year by doing some truck repair. It's 91 F150. I got some bad wheel bearings. I suspect on both sides. So I'm going to replace both and replace the rotors since they're getting old anyway. Never done a video like this before, but I figured why the heck not? Throw it on YouTube, maybe someone can use it. Alright, step 1. Get your shit. Step 2. Jack her up. Alright, next step. Take off the wheels. Then, these clips right here hold the caliper in. This one down here too. So you hammer these out, you gotta kind of compress them a little bit because there's a little nub that'll lock it if you don't. See that? So, but they just slide right out, and then on to the next step. Okay, so the clips are out, and now the whole caliper will just slide right off. You gotta kind of fight with it a little bit. Okay, so the clips are out, and then you pull the caliper right off. I had to persuade this one a little bit, the persuader, but it will come right off. As you can see, somewhere out of the way on these trucks, it just so happens to be that the control arm. That's what you call it. No. We'll hold it right there like that. Pretty sweet. Okay, on to the next. Okay. So now you can see I started with a little dust cap here. Just pull it off. And that's where the bearing sits. Well, it sits in this assembly here. This is the rotor and bearing hub assembly. So next step here is to then take this cotter pin out, and then there's a nut right behind it. Okay, so you take the cotter pin out, mine broke. There's a little retaining clip thing here that comes out, and then you can put a socket on the nut here and turn it just like that, and then this will come off. This will come off. And the whole assembly is going to try to pop out on you. This is the nut down there. And then the bearing, it's a washer. The outer bearing is right there. Now it's trash, I don't really care about it. I'll just let it fall. Doesn't look too bad. Alright, so then this whole assembly will just come off like that. And then you got your spindle. So this is where your bearings ride in between the raceways here that are pressed into your hub. See if I focus that. There you go. So as you can see here, the outer bearing sits inside here, and as the wheel turns, it rides on that metal raceway right there, which then in turn contacts the spindle right here. So that's where it's riding, and it's not too bad. I mean, this is 22 years, I guess, of riding on it, and this side ain't bad. The other side's a little worse, but I feel confident that this side is just fine. So the next step now is to get all the grease off your spindle. Use a paper towel, whatever. Get all that grease off, and then I guess what we'll do is we'll put the new rotor on and pack the wheel bearings and set this side all up so it's ready to go. Okay, so now you got your nice pretty rotor. You'll take your outer bearing. The next step is to pack your bearings, then put them in. Okay, so after you pack your bearing with the grease, you put it in the raceway, and then you take your little oil seal, see it in there, place it there and hammer it in. I'm actually going to put a little more grease around the corners there, but then you just hammer it in, and then it'll lock in the outer, or no, sorry, inner bearing. Alright, so after you clean off the spindle, I'm going to put some grease on. Now this is the other side. You can see that it's more worn here where the bearings ride. And it's the point where I can feel like a little lip here, but very, very little. So I'm going to defer dealing with the new spindle until later, because I think this is still probably good. So anyway, take a little grease, that bearing grease, rub it around where the bearing will ride on your spindle. Both sides. You don't really worry about the middle because nothing touches the middle of the spindle. Get in the threads. And then pack the new bearings into the new, that's the old one, into the new rotor. Okay, so to pack a bearing, put some grease in your palm. This is the bearing, obviously. And then you just kind of rub it in, and you can see where the grease is getting injected in between your rolling pins. Roller pins, whatever. And you just want to make sure that it gets nice and full. All the way around. So you can see that it's starting to overflow. That's good. What I like to do is just run the grease right along the outside of it. Okay, so the outer's done. Where's the inner? The inner's right here. As you can see, it's bigger. Much bigger. It's the same process. Greasing your palm. And just kind of work it in. It's pretty well packed. And just like the other one, this one has grease all over it anyway, but just run some of the grease over the top of it, because that'll get worked into it as it rolls. And then there you go, that's the two bearings that are done. They're ready to be put into okay. So, floater number 2, we got the spindle grease, we have the bearings packed. We're going to put the outer in right now. I'm sorry, inner. I keep messing those up. Alright, so we take our nice greased bearing. I'm actually going to set it right here for just a second. Take a little grease, bearing grease, and lube up the raceway. It'll get lubed up from the grease that's on the bearing. but my philosophy is dealing with wheel bearings, the more grease the better. Okay, so we got that all greased up. Then you take some more grease and kind of go around the groove at the top here. This is where the oil seal will fit in, but you know, if you can put anything in the way to stop any type of water, then that'll be good, because water kills these things. Okay, so now we'll put the bearing in. Slides right in there. Then get the oil seal. Push it right in here. And hammer it in. Okay, the inner is in. Do the same process for the outer. Just wipe clean anything that might be in there. Okay, so take some grease, run it around the raceway for the new rotor. That greased up, take a little bit more, run along the edges at the top where the little cap will sit on the outside. Just help to block any type of moisture. Okay, we'll grab the bearing. Slide it in there, and then throw it on the truck. It's gonna slide right on here. I'm just gonna watch that, because it'll try to pop out on you. Push it back in. Make the retaining bolt, nut rather. Screw it in, and that's it. That's pretty much done for the wheel bearings now. Obviously you gotta torque it down, but you can see it's spinning freely now. That's it. Okay, so I put the retaining nut, torqued it down at 25 foot-pounds. Yo! Okay, so now for the brake. Okay, so since the old rotors and pads were more worn out than the new ones, obviously, the piston in the caliper here is pushed out, obviously, to make the brakes contact and make them work. So you have to, I take a C-clamp and compress the piston back in. Okay, so then after you compress it, you just put the new pads on the sides of the caliper housing here, and then it'll just slide right on just like it did. And then you put your pins back up here to hold it, and then we're back in business. It's a little tight right now, but it'll loosen up. And that's it. And just put the tires back on.